Welcome back to the Boundless Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ferrin Peterson, joined today by John Thorp. John is a living legend. From stuntman to electro medicine man, an entrepreneur, an athlete and competitor, whether he's on the back of a horse, running a triathlon, a pilot or a hang glider, or catching big waves, not only is he unstoppable, but he has scaled a community of people to bring hope and healing to equines, birds of prey, and human athletes. John, welcome to the Boundless Podcast.
Thank you very much, Ferrin. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Welcome back to the Boundless Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ferrin Peterson, professional jockey and veterinarian. This season, we journey beyond borders and beyond limits to uncover the grit, the grace, and the fire that turns ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. It's my pleasure as well. I'm excited to dive into your story. There's so much you have done in your life, and you've lived to the fullest. Start with, what are some of the craziest stunts you have done as a stuntman?
One of the craziest, although it was my own production, was on 7/11/91. I like the numbers.
Yeah.
7/11/91?
That rolls.
Well, that was the total eclipse of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't watching it. I was flying my hang glider into it. Never been done before, never been done since. And that footage went around the world, and my entire stunt team that morning walked on me and said they weren't going to be a part of my death. The clouds were going to the surface. It was like driving in the fog. The wind was out of the wrong direction, not coming up the face of the cliff like the normal trade winds do, but it was coming over the backside. So it was a quartering tailwind, which creates a vacuum over the edge, and it's a downdraft takeoff. And that's why my friends all said, we're not even going to launch you. You're going to kill yourself.
Mm-hmm. We won't be a part of this.
I don't want to be a part of it, you know? And so my whole team left. Mm-hmm. There's 50 people up on top, but a couple of polo players, Bill George and his wife Gay, said, if he's going to do it, we're going to film it. So they were up on top. And I had to pick somebody after my team left, and I saw a guy that I kind of recognized that had flown hang gliders and said, hey, would you mind launching me? And he goes, sure, I'll launch you. So we stood there for about a half an hour, and I knew if I could just get away from the cliff, I knew where I could go find lift, and that'd be on the backside, you know? So when I took off...
But you're free falling at this point?
When I went to take off, instead of going straight up like you normally go straight up, I went down into the clouds, and everybody just saw me drop, gone.
Leap of faith.
And they went, oh my God, you know, didn't hear anything. They didn't hear the crunch or the crackle. And so as I sucked it in and picked up speed and cranked it around through the fog, and then I knew I could see a little bit of green behind me, and I knew I had made it to the edge where I could, and all of a sudden I felt myself going up. I went, oh, because I never flew with any instruments or anything. I was one of the first to fly hang gliders in the world. So as I found that lift, and then I went up and I started to get even a little bit above the clouds, because the clouds were acting so strange because the eclipse was happening. It was just a very strange day. And then I felt, as I rose, I cranked the turnaround, and I could see through the mist. There was all the people looking around. And I pulled the bar in and came dive bombing at about 20 feet above their heads. Whoosh! And they all just, oh my God, he's alive. And so I stayed up there, and they were trying to direct me as the clouds kind of parted, because I had people flying in from all over the world that were going to go to the Big Island here, because here on the Big Island, you get 100% totality.
Okay.
On Oahu, we were getting about 98% totality, you know, very close to full totality. But so I had buddies saying, come with us in the helicopter. We're going to go out. Well, it was raining, and it was the worst conditions. And, so all these millions of people didn't see anything. I'm in the air, and I'm going, I'm going to get this. I'm going to do this. And so, and as I flew back. They're going, go to the left, go to the left. The clouds are starting to part, and there it is, the total eclipse. Wow. And I come flying. They go, oh my God, you're right in it. And my little girlfriend at the time, who was on the cliff, that had questioned me, why are you trying to kill yourself? Why your friends all left. Why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. If you loved me, you wouldn't do this. And I said, if you loved me, you wouldn't have asked. Mm-hmm. So I said, and so you hear on the video, as soon as I'm flying into the cliff, Bill, she goes, oh my God, there is a God. I just knew it. I just knew it. And so then I get the shot. As I'm following the tunnel of clouds, they say, that it's like down the tunnel, go for the light.
Yeah.
The light at the end of the tunnel.
That's a new way to experience that.
So I'm heading for the light. And then all of a sudden, the window closed. But they had gotten the shot. Mm-hmm. Now the clouds came in. And I had told the people up on top of the cliff, because at that time there was a regulation with the United States Hang Gliding Association, because a lot of people had been killed, that you had to wear a parachute. And so at that cliff, if you prematurely deploy, you're going to get sucked into the cliff. I'm not going to wear a parachute. Anything could happen. You could snag something, you're cranking a big turn, and the thing prematurely deploys and pulls you into the cliff. I said, this is stupid. I'm not going to do that. So I stuffed towels in my parachute bag on my harness. Uh-huh. And so I had towels stuffed in there. So now the window closes and I can't see. I go, can you see any? We can't see any. Can you see? We can't see anything, John. The clouds are going to the surface. And so then I start to feel a bump. And I thought I was heading out towards Rabbit Island. I thought I was heading out over the ocean. I thought I was getting the bump, the rotor, off of the island. And so I think I must be behind Rabbit Island, and I'm sure the clouds are clear once I get lower, and I start getting jacked. The nose of the glider went straight up, dropped straight down, pulled it out that time. Again, straight up. This time it tumbled, and the glider went once upside down, twice upside down. I ended up laying in the sail with the glider still flying upside down, and I'm going, you dumb... explicit. This is when you need that parachute. Mm-hmm.
Towels aren't going to do the job.
Towels aren't going to save you. Now you're going to die.
Yeah,
you're going to die.
Cool way to die, though.
They're going to, they're going to be right. You're going to die. And so I'm going.
You can't. You got to prove them wrong.
You dumb shit. Why did you? And so then the glider flew out of it. I went, oh Jesus, I'm flying again. And so then I'm going, God, I wonder where I must be right behind Rabbit Island. Then I went, uh-oh. There's green and, there's high tension wires. Oh, no. Crap, I'm on the backside. Nobody's lived to tell about blowing over the backside because they're all dead. So now I'm going, so I'm under a set of high tension wires. Oh, there's another one. Oh, under a set of. Finally, I'm getting around. I'm going 60 plus miles an hour, downwind, downdraft. And I go, if I hit the water at this speed, I'm going to break my neck. Mm-hmm. I've got to go back and turn into the wind and try and slow down. So I make a big sweeping turn, going back into the wind, and I'm seeing all these trees and bushes coming at me. I'm just going, it was like Michael Douglas in Romancing the Stone as I went through these bushes. Bang! And I stuck in a tree. I went, oh my God, I'm alive. Uh-huh. There's not a scratch on me. I'm stuck in the tree, though. And it was a whoomp when I hit, and barely a scratch on my glider. So I unhooked myself. I climbed down. I checked, and I'm still alive, right? I didn't go to heaven.
In heaven?
Is this heaven? Because this feels like Keabi bushes to me. And so the people on the backside there in Hawaii Kai had seen me out of control coming down and heard the whoomp. Mm-hmm. And they're going, that guy died for sure. And so I hear the fire engines and everything. And I was supposed to land my whole crew, because I did have a walkie-talkie with me.
Okay.
And when I was laying upside down, the last thing I said into the walkie-talkie was, I'm in trouble, And then it went, because they were on the other side of the cliff, and I was out of range.
So they think you're a goner.
So when I said I'm in trouble, because I was supposed to make a beautiful landing on the beach with my girlfriend there, who was a radio cat. She had a radio show or whatever, and she was going to interview me. What was it like to fly? And I'm 20 miles away in the bushes, and it's like, I'm alive. But. So I crawled out, and these people in the fire engines and everything, crawl this way. Oh, I'm going, I can't see anything. I get out, And these nice people, they said, we saw you out of control. And boy, the sound you made when you hit, we didn't think anybody could have lived through that. And I went, not a scratch. It's like God went,
Wild.
Not yet.
And I wasn't going to give up. So I fought the whole way to the ground, and sure enough, I had a safe landing at Mariner's Cove, and not a scratch to me or my hang glider. And I just thank God, because he was right there with me.
Yeah.
Not yet. And so, and it was in 7/11/91, I'd broken my leg January 6th of 1986. And now
Was that from a stunt?
No. Stupid. Same 3 letters, but all my injuries have been stupid related,
Okay.
not stunt related, other than tearing off my bicep.
Okay.
That was the only one that I did, and that wasn't a broken bone. I never broke a bone doing a stunt.
Wow.
Never. Not one. And that's what Dar used to say too. Dar was my mentor, Dar Robinson. And we did a show called That's Incredible back in the day.
That's fitting for you.
Way before your day, but it was called That's Incredible. With Kathy Lee Crosby and John, forget the other, but it was a show that they started off having amateurs trying to do stunts, and a bunch of people got killed. The guy tried to jump a Ferrari and missed. And
So the show had to end eventually.
Well, so they said, let's bring in professionals.
Oh.
And that's when Dar stepped in, and we ended up doing about 80 That's Incredibles, and thinking up, what can we do next? And Dar
What a fun job.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sign me up.
Yeah. 100K an episode, and you could, here.
Wow. Okay.
So that's, we had that kind of money to spend to bring in Kai Michelson and Rocket Man and blasting us, and Dar drove off, off the Snake River Canyon and bailed out of the car. I mean, just all kinds of. We were the first to do the wire gags using a rapid decelerator.
Okay.
And up on top of CNN Tower, and so nobody had ever used these things. And Kai Michelson brought over like a big brake drum. And so Dar was going to free fall down the face of CNN Tower. And so Kai came in, he says, I got the perfect thing to slow him down. And I said, well, we'll use one of my hang gliding harnesses underneath so it doesn't look like he has a harness, or with a D-ring in the back to suspend him, as he's falling.
Yeah.
So he's falling face down, and moving.
Tonight on
That's Incredible.
Free falling 1,200 feet off the world's tallest structure.
I have currently 15 world records and world firsts.
That's the whole thing with doing high falls. Don't fall like a dummy. We can throw a dummy off and look better than you. These are some of the lessons I got when I was just so scared that I was going off. I just wanted to hit that airbag, and be safe. And it's like, Dar would take me by the arm. And the producers, everybody was like happy. He just got shot out of a building. He hit the airbag. We got it. And Dar had me by the arm, and he said, John, because Dar gave me the opportunity to do the stunt, and he said, a dummy could have fallen better than you. We'll give you another one. I'm going, oh, shit, I just survived this one. You want me to do it again? We'll give you a bit. He's squeezing my arm. We'll give you a better one. This time you kick and you scream and you move your arms and, and look like a real human being that's going to, oh, God, Dar. Bless his heart. January 6th, 1986 was a tough year. I broke my leg. My father died. My dog died. And Dar got killed in a stunt.
Wow.
So it was boom.
Yeah.
Boom. 1986.
Unrelenting.
It's how you get back up, and so losing Dar was a big, you lose your best friend. It's
Right.
and mentor.
Yeah.
And a guy that's
Believes in you.
yeah, and just
And your dad believes in you.
and
You lose them both.
and they, but so anyways, nobody gets out alive.
So how'd you get leg back up?
So I went to Big Bear, California.
Yeah, I've been there.
My buddy had bought was going to buy an old rundown mineral hot springs. I had just gotten the 2 big machines that were the predecessors of the Equiscope, but they were both huge machines. One was for neurological and one was for connective tissue. And so after spending $35,000 at Curlin and Job, I still couldn't bend the leg. The leg was still, and I said, you'll never bend that leg. I can hear
What kind of treatments were they giving you?
So, at Curlin and Job, that's when I called Lee Majors when I was laying in the hospital with my leg in the air. and we were prepping for a new show called Fall Guys, of which they just did a movie about us, but they used a different logo. But they did do a cameo with Lee at the end going, I think you ought to do, So they did it just recently. It came out, Fall Guys. It wasn't done all that well. But anyway, so I called Darn. I said, and I called Lee Majors. And I said, Lee, this is the $6 million man. I had doubled with Lee, and I had on $6 million. And I was with one of my dear friends. I was with him during his breakup with Farrah Fawcett and everything that he went through with his best friend, on and on. It's just, we got stories. But,
I'd say so.
But anyway, so I said, Lee, he put me back together again. I've got 12 screws, 3 pins, and I've got a drain tube out of my hip because they did a bone graft off my hip to putty together the top of my tibia plateau.
Okay.
And put 3 pins in there, and then 12 screws, 2 plates. And after the guy buttoned me back up again with 168 sutures, he said, I don't think you'll ever bend the leg. He says, there's no cartilage in there. And he says, I've got you back together again, but you were like Humpty Dumpty. Your tibia plateau was like an eggshell that had shattered. And I put these 3 pins in there. And so he says, I don't think you'll ever bend the leg. So that's when he said, but the good news is we're doing knee replacements. And I checked your insurance. Screen Actors Guild will pay for it. Mm-hmm. So it's about $100,000, but you're covered. It's free.
Yeah.
So they had
except for my knee.
Yeah, except it's free, except it's my knee, So I said, Lee, I can come back. They want to do a knee replacement. He says, John, there's 100 younger, faster guys that don't have a $100,000 knee. He said, I couldn't even bring you on the set. You're a liability. If you trip and fall, you got $100,000 knee that we have to fix. There's, anybody else is $2,500 here, whatever, ACL, MCL, hey, it's peanuts.
Yeah.
You got to come to California. I just got treated with this AccuJack machine. I said, AccuJack? He said, yeah, Jack Nicklaus is using it. And it brought back Terry Bradshaw in '83. And I'm playing tennis today, pain free. Mm-hmm. He says, you got to come to California and get this. I said, how am I going to get out of the hospital? He says, I saw you with all those police officers. He says, have your cop buddies come in, and they can't keep you in that hospital. He said, you got to come and try this AccuJack machine. And Curlin and Job had a big name. They're the top orthopedic surgeons in the world. Yeah. Their clinic is still, although I think they both passed. One was in a wheelchair when I was there in '86. But anyways, on tequila, beer, and Percodan, I checked out of that hospital. And I was pretty good until I was about halfway across the Pacific, when everything started to wear off.
Oh, no.
And then the stunts is STUNTS. Stupid is STUPID. I said, this is probably the stupidest thing you've ever done. And I said, bring me the bags. And I got sick. Mm-hmm. And the pain came back. Mm-hmm. And the pain was excruciating.
Yeah, bone pain.
And so Lee couldn't meet me that morning, so he sent his bodyguard, big, huge, 350-pound black man, in a limousine and took me to Curlin and Job. And I'm leaking blood out of my drain tube, out of my hip. And they see me pull up in a limousine and wheelchair in, and they're like, how did this guy get out of a hospital? Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, long story short, I spent almost 2.5, 3 months at $250 a day. When I got there, they told me, we don't have any AccuJack machine. I said, I just flew all the way from Hawaii to get this special miracle machine. Yeah. And they said, oh, we don't have it. Oh, he got ultrasound. I said, no, he didn't. I know what ultrasound is. It's a heating device. I said, no, he got some AccuJack machine. And I kept saying all these big athletes going into a little private room on the side. And so I'm going, I'll bet those guys are getting the AccuJack machine. And I just flew from Hawaii, and Lee Majors wouldn't lie to me, and you know. And Lee wasn't with me, and they're going, this is some rich kid that got the crap beat out of him. And he's here on our doorstep, you know, because he's a rich kid with, you know, whatever, nuts. He's probably crazy as well as stupid. So I went home that night because Lee said, stay with me in Malibu. So I went to Malibu. And, you know, everybody in there, and I got belligerent, you know, because I was in major pain, and I started calling them names. And so I got to Lee, and I said, Lee, you didn't get any AccuJack machine. You got ultrasound. He goes, I did not. I got these 2 machines that they hooked me up to, that, you know, in the private room. I said, oh. He goes, I'll go with you tomorrow. We'll see who's lying. So the next day I show up with a $6 million man, and they go, oh, that crazy guy, really, he's with Lee Majors. Oh my God. So both Carolyn and Job came down and said, Mr. Major, you know, and he said, why'd you lie to my stunt guy? You know, and they said, personally, Mr. Majors, there's not enough clinical documentation to support these devices. And I looked into the room, and they were running a mill. So they got 6 benches with 10 people on each bench, with 1 PT and 1 PT assistant giving them the lotion, potion, range of motion. And so, and they're getting $250 per person, times 10, times, you know, 6 benches. They're making bank, you know. And so that machine having 1 PT sitting with you for 1 hour when she could be making $2,500 instead of $250 didn't make economical sense unless you're elite or professional athlete that says, I go to Curlin and Job. So all these other people are coming to Curlin and Job to get the, you know, what the pro athletes are getting, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're getting the lotion, potion, range of motion. There's no money in cure. Why would anybody want to get you well in half the time to get half the money? And this is one of the things with workers' comp and all kinds of things. The attorneys get involved and say, treat it like it's a job. Just lie. And if I get over in the state of Hawaii, because I fought all this stuff in the state of Hawaii after I returned, and, you know, just treat it like a job. And that's why our insurance rates are so high. Because we got a bunch of liars out there that are trying to fake their injuries. And, you know, some are, some aren't. But the ones that aren't, you know, aren't getting the kind of care because the ones that are taken away from it.
Yeah.
And this is the abuse of the medical system that I personally witnessed for almost 40 years.
Gotcha.
You know, and it's heartbreaking. So anyways, they said, we'll treat your guy. If he tells one person what he's going through, we'll discontinue his treatment. We heard he was a little belligerent down here. He can't treat our people that way. He's got to zip the lip, and we'll treat him. So I spent about $35,000, all the money I had saved as a stunt guy. And I knew something was happening because in 10 days I was off all my pain medication. 10 days. I couldn't bend the leg, but I was off all my pain medication. Wow. So I continued until I had no more money. Then I found out where I could go and purchase the devices. And that was another used car salesman kind of deal. Oh, you know actors, and you know horses, you know, you could make $500 a day treating horses. And we don't have anybody using it on horses. Do you know anything about horses? I go, yeah, I was raised with horses. Well, you could make $50 a horse. And you could, you know, we can set you up at the track, and there's veterinarians down there, and there's at the Equestrian Center in Burbank, and some other, Dr. Bob Bradley was one of them back in that time in 86. He's looking, you know, they'll use it. So I go, okay. And so if you'll spend the $20,000 for these 2 devices, we'll, you know, hook you up. And so I spent the money. I got the devices. It was the happiest day of my life walking out of there with those 2 machines and big Halliburton cases. I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to show the world. And so when I went to Dr. Bradley, the first horse that he brought to me, he said, it's right front shoulder. So all I know is, where do you hurt? Put your finger on it and do a big bullseye around it. All they ever did was slap 2 plates on me and walk out of the room at Curlin and Job. And then so I would ask, well, if you don't have anybody next, could I sit here and kind of use it a little longer? And so that, yeah, fine. You know, so I kind of learned how to use it a little bit there at Curlin and Job, just on myself, paying my $250 cash
Yeah.
No insurance, pay cash or get the hell out of here. So that's how I ended up with the devices, but I couldn't bend the leg. So Big Bear, my buddy says, if you bring those machines, because first experience making the 500 a day, I go to Dr. Bob Bradley, and he says, okay, it's right front shoulder. So I treat the right front shoulder. About an hour and a half later, I said, hey, Bob, trot the horse out. So Bob trots the horse out. He goes, great job, right front. Too bad he's dead lame, rear left. I've never seen this horse this lame on his left.
Because you took away the pain.
Took away the pain, and the horse is only going to show you what's bothering it the most.
Right.
So I took away the pain in the right front. Now he showed me hind left. Mm-hmm. So I go, oh, geez. So I treat the hind left. And then he goes, now it's front left. Mm-hmm. Yeah, another hour and a half.
Right.
Now it's front left. This is my first horse I've ever treated.
Taking off the layers.
So now I go, treat front left. Then he comes back and he goes, hind right. I've done every quarter of this horse. Almost 8 hours has gone by, and I'm going, oh my God. So at the end of the day, Bob comes by. I said, Bob, please trot this horse out. He trots the horse out. He brings it back. He said, good, he's sound. I'll see you tomorrow. So I come back tomorrow, and that night, I went and I heard that there was acupuncture books on horses. Mm-hmm. And through my experience with everything that I'd heard about, electrical and energy, that acupuncture points were highly conductive points in the body. Mm-hmm. So I said, I wonder if a horse has acupuncture points.
Had you studied meridians at this
No,
point?
I had not. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew acupuncture.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look into this, because everybody mainstream Western medicine at Curlin and Job,
Right, no.
So, I mean, even the stretch was even trigger points, So when you understand that every living creature, the fascia is an entire electrical system too,
Right.
just underneath.
To think how recent that is.
Yeah.
Recognized medically.
Yeah. So
before we just cut right through it.
So
Nothing of it.
Yeah, just cut right through it. Cut that whole electrical pathway. So I see that if you go bilaterally down through the spine, you're hitting the bladder meridian. Mm-hmm. And you're hitting, this was chiropractic is based on. I go, look at the kidney, the liver, the lung, the heart, the spleen. You're hitting them all if you do a spinal. So the next day, Bob brings the horse and he goes, I'll see you at the end of the day. I said, Bob, I'm going to treat his back. He goes, there's nothing wrong with his back. It's still his right front shoulder. Just for the shits and giggles, I'm going to treat his back. Mm-hmm. So I do a bilateral spinal down this horse. Mm-hmm. And about an hour and a half later, I'm finished. And I said, Bob, trot the horse out. Trots him down the lane, trots him back. I see him go into his office, get out his whip, get out his lunge line, up to the left,
Trying to
to
find
the
the
right.
lightness. Where'd it go?
Where'd it go? And so then he goes, he's sound. I go, good, next horse. And so then I started building my reputation, not only then jockeys would show up, hey, I see you take the plates from that horse's ass and put them on your knee. What can it do for my neck? I cannot turn my neck. I said, well, I'm not supposed to treat people. I'm just treat animals, Mm-hmm. But you treat yourself. Can you treat me? So I won't drop names, but a very famous jockey, he said, treat my neck. So he had been injured. And so he, about 3 hours later, he comes back and he says, miracle, amigo. I could see the horse coming up. I hadn't been able to turn. I could see him.
Important.
I could see him coming up. I won the 6th race. You miracle man. So the next day I had more jockeys and more. Then the owners of the horses.
Spread.
Then the word went out, all word of mouth. And then the next thing I had Vidal Sassoon and his wife Jeanette in their underpants in a horse stall. Mm-hmm. I go, they're going to put me in jail. And so now I'm building my confidence level up, and I went into Screen Actors Guild and into Stunts Unlimited and Stuntman's Association. I did 2 lectures, and everybody wanted to come and see me. And my buddy said, I found this old rundown mineral hot springs up in Big Bear. He said, with that machine that you're doing, I've got a chiropractor up here that will team up with us so we can do it legally. And his wife knows all the insurance billing, and they'll park their Winnebago outside of the hot springs. And you could start, we can buy this mineral hot springs. So I moved to Big Bear, California, and I started pulling the leg to see if I could get the thing to bend. Mm-hmm. So on the exercise bike, I was like this.
Okay.
I couldn't rotate.
Yeah.
And so I'd put all my weight on my knee, and I was swimming because I could swim. Mm-hmm. And in the hot water and the cold water, back and forth into the hot and the cold. And then I put all my weight on and try and bend it, crack, and my knee would blow up. It was like having a grapefruit. I couldn't get my pants on over my knee.
Wow.
So I go out to the trailer, hook myself up, sleep with the machines. 2 hours on, I'd wake up, I'd switch machines to the neurological, to the connective tissue, back and forth. The next morning, I could get my pants on. So then I started measuring the sprocket, an eighth of an inch further, an eighth of an inch further. With a little marker pen, I got a little further and a little further. Mm-hmm. And so one day I finally went full rotation. I said, get me a bicycle.
Wow.
And I started riding around Big Bear Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I was able to ride, then they said, well, the California State Championships are coming to Big Bear. I said, well, I could, my run was kind of a shuffle, but I could swim and I could bike. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'll get through even if I got to walk. But I'm going to, it's almost a year to the date of the end. I'm going to run a triathlon, because I got it to bend enough. And so, but I had to pull on it. So it's like, if I didn't pull on it, I'd been stuck with it, but no person's going to go through what I went through for, a couple of months
like
of having
perseverance,
of having your leg blow up so big that, you look down at it and go, oh my God.
What have I done to myself?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't, so I finished middle of the pack in the triathlon.
And it was a year to the date of your accident?
A little more than a year to the date. A little more. It was about 13, 14 months, really, realistically, but I was run biking and swimming a year from the date of the injury.
That's amazing.
So finishing middle of the pack, then I raced again. And then, I was fine we were going to do like a wellness center, and we were going to do an altitude training center in Big Bear. And we had all these plans.
That'd be awesome.
And it, business-wise, my partner, as much as I was bringing in and paying for the mortgage of that property, never put my name on as a co-owner. And a couple of my friends that had a whole lot of money that came in that were going to invest, and they said, well, we like you, John, but your friend's a little shady. We just went down, and you're not even listed as a partner. The father-in-law and the wife, but you're not even listed. And so I went, why did you not? These guys were willing to put up like $10 million.
Yeah.
But my name's not on. So they went, mm-mm.
Yeah, they're connected to you.
And about that time, I get a call from Hawaii because Tom Selleck had to do a fight scene with, it was with a guy that looked like me, but he almost got stabbed. And someone called me from the show because they needed and he said, whatever happened to John Thorp? I think he's in California somewhere. And he said, well, he looks just like this guy. Maybe he could double, for this guy. And so they said, could you jump over a barrel and climb up a fire escape? And then Tom's going to chase you, pull you down, you're doubling for this actor, and punch you in the face. And that's the gag.
So how much do you get paid to get punched in the face?
Well, you get, you're getting your 500 or so, and then you get an adjustment. I got an extra 500 because Tom missed and he punched me in the face.
Okay.
And my tooth folded back like one of those bowling pins. Those things where you slide them down, the pins go up like this, the games you play. It folded up and I went, oh, crap. So I
spar, and I've had people give too hard of a punch. I've only gotten a bloody nose.
So
teeth have been okay.
So I stuck the tooth back up. I took a roll of toilet paper and wrapped my head that night. And the tooth felt pretty good. I never looked at it. And that tooth lasted for about 10 years before it started turning brown on me or whatever. Okay. So I was back. And I was, so I was back in the stunt business. I was back in my partner on the hot springs went, "You can't leave, you can't leave." Yeah, the cash cow's taken off. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I'm back in the stunt business.
Wow. So you healed your knee. Talk about your racehorse, who also had a very similar injury to you, and I believe it was a year to the date, raced at Del Mar.
Well, I can talk about it now, but believe me, I didn't want to say anything when TVG was interviewing me because of all the PETA people and everybody out there that thinks these horses love to run.
They do.
They were bred to run. They're treated like kings and queens. Our fillies are, and yeah, they run. They race. Racing's been going on for hundreds of years,
It's the most natural thing a horse can do.
And they love it.
They do. They're competitors.
They love it.
They want a job.
And so this horse breaks its leg, fractured, metacarpal. The girl that was there when the horse was born up at Rancho San Miguel, the sire was Richard's kid, who made about $2 million, but he didn't really start to excel until he was a 4-year-old. He was a little bit of a late bloomer. And so our awesome kid broke his leg at Del Mar, broke his leg at Del Mar, and they recommended euthanasia. They recommended putting the horse down. And she said, well, can't we fix the horse? And I had already been through this with Dr. Sinatra with a horse that had 3 screws in his ankle. And that horse came back to win 3 races.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so.
Which it is hard as a veterinarian deciding in that moment what is the best long-term outcome for the horse. And what people also don't understand is that horses have laminitis. So if they're not putting full weight after a surgery on all 4 limbs, their other 3 legs are likely to go laminitic, which is very painful.
Right.
So that's sometimes why veterinarians recommend that.
And, and I understand all of that, and it was, I said, yeah, we can fix him. I said, do the surgery. And I think he chipped too. And we have all the showing the fracture and everything. And so the best case scenario was 18 months stall rest, hand walking only. He'll be lucky to walk without a limp, and 95% will never run, will never race. And so I went, what a challenge. A screw in his knee, just like me.
That's right.
I said, let's bring him back. And so put the team on him. Now I also use an amazing horse chiropractor, Larry Thumper Jones, who's one of the big guy. But this guy knows
I remember him walking around the backside. He's hard to miss.
Yeah. With shorts on and cowboy boots.
Yes, it's a good look.
Shorts. And he's a huge, big guy from Canada, hockey player. And it's like, you want to give him, you do not want to go.
I want him to be my bodyguard.
He is, I love him dearly. He's one of my best friends to this day. And I met him on the run with I'll Have Another back in 2011. And so anyway, so I had Thumper come out. I said, I'll go by what you say. After we got him back, and we were treating him with the Equiscope, and he was doing well, but I wanted him, I needed him to adjust him, and I needed another opinion, because if I'm going to throw out this kind of money, I'd probably put in $100,000 into treatments and everything with this horse, our awesome kid. And so Larry goes, John, they missed it on this horse. This horse is trying to run. His neck is so out. He's trying to run with his shoulders up in between, with his neck, and that's why he couldn't elongate, and that's why he jammed until he, broke. Right. And his back end, he said, this poor, they missed it. And
just causing too much concussion on that bone.
And so he went, I think you got a runner here. I said, should we? He goes, they missed this, John. We straighten this horse out and you treat him. This horse can run. Because, but boy, I'll tell you, our awesome kid looked at Larry. I saw the whites of his eyes, when Larry first put his hand, because he's been in pain for a long, long time, and we're treating him with the Equiscope, and getting better. We're removing all the cytokines and we're removing all the inflammation. And
people often don't realize that horses have chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, you name it.
Especially
they're treated like professional athletes.
Absolutely, and they are. And people don't understand, as Ronald Reagan so graciously said, the outside of a horse is good for the inside of a man. Mm-hmm. And horses have this energy that fills you. They can feel a fly on their butt. They feel everything you're feeling, as you know, Ferrin. I've watched you racing on horses that were long shots, and those horses would run for you, but they probably wouldn't have run for anybody else. Mm-hmm. But they ran for you, and they feel it. They feel
the rider's confidence.
Yeah. And so we treated him. And Larry, when Larry gave me the nod, he said, John, this horse has been trying to run all jammed up. And so we treated him, and exactly 1 year to the date, this is exactly 1 year to the date, so he beat me by a month or two.
Okay.
So same race, Del Mar. This is broke his leg, August 15th, 2024. August 15th, 2025. Not only did we have him back in 6 months, I had him back in training and running beautifully.
Yeah.
Running without a lame step. Mm-hmm. So anyways, and the vets were very skeptical about what we're doing to this horse and why are you torturing this horse? Isn't being tortured. Look at him. Mm-hmm. His ears up. He's just...
Right, and with the vet exams, he wouldn't even be allowed to train if he was taking a lame step.
Yeah. So we passed all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was the screw in the knee when TVG came to, of which I happened to be in the hospital again. I said, I'm going to go watch my horse run. And I was in pretty bad shape that I was training hard, dehydrated, and had gone into acute liver failure. And so here in Hawaii, I was playing hard polo, not taking good care of myself. And anyways, I was in the hospital. But we flew in on the 14th. He was going to run on the 15th, same race at Del Mar, 1 year exactly from the date of the injury, and he's going to run. And I broke out of the hospital once again, and I was there. And an hour later, after I escaped the hospital, TVG's interviewing me, but Tyler said, don't say anything about the screw in his knee. I can say it now because we did retire him. Uh-huh. But he raced against 14 horses, and he beat 7 of them.
Awesome.
And none of them had a screw in their knee, just like me. Mm-hmm. So he did well. And after the race, he did well. But we only raced him in 5 furlongs, Mm-hmm. And he was really going, no, he's Tyler was saying, no, he had plenty of gas. Let's run him 2 turns.
Yeah.
So our trainer, Jeff Mullen, said, well, we got a race coming up in Los Alamitos. Let's run him 2 turns. So 3 weeks later, we ran him again, 2 turns, and got 3rd at the boards. Mm-hmm. So, but those 2 races, we could get out of the claiming because he raced at a claimer a year ago. But you can get, because he was off for a year, you can get a waiver for like 2 races that
no one can touch him.
They can't claim him.
Right.
So we got 3rd, and so I'm going at a mile. And so we had another race coming up, and everybody's heard about this horse. And I went, they're going to claim him. We'll win it. It'll be the cherry on top, but I've already seen the winner's circle. This horse has already won. Mm-hmm. And we're all about the horse.
Right.
And the girl that was my partner that watched this horse being born, and
Jessica?
Yeah. He's my forever.
She loves that horse.
It's my forever horse. Mm-hmm. I said, okay. I said, I'm not going to take a chance on getting the cherry on top with being in the winner's circle with him. We'll retire him. He's got a wonderful home to go to. Mm-hmm. And we've done everything what we're about to do with the whole IFAR group with making sure every racehorse has a home after they've retired from racing.
Right.
And every racehorse owner has got to put in money to make sure that those horses. That's one thing that Dr. Steven Sinatra did, who won the Maryland Million 2 years in a row with a horse that was a throwaway. And Greg's Irish Pride was the horse that had 3 screws in his ankle, and he came back to win 3. So it ain't my first rodeo.
Right.
So I knew what we could do, and we've done it all the right way. And Sinatra always made sure that every horse he had a home, or he'd keep it on his farm himself.
Yeah. And even the way you're treating with Equiscope, it's for the long-term goal. It's good for the joint, correct?
Correct. It's good for, it's good for everyone. I mean, I hate to, about the device, but you're electrical before you're biochemical.
Can you describe to our audience what intelligent bioenergetics is and how Equiscope works?
So the common sense of it all is you're diagnosed, and most people know what an EKG is. The heart. Then I go EEG. What's
the
that?
Brain.
How about an EMG?
Muscle.
Correct. Electrobiograph, electroencephalograph, electrocardiograph. And I like to ask people, I go, what's the E stand for? And they go,
Electro.
Electro. How do they bring you back to life when you got a big heart attack? Do they stick a needle in your heart?
Nope. Shock ya.
Shock you. So you're diagnosed electrically. You're brought back to life electrically. Why aren't you being treated electrically? And this is what Chinese medicine is based on. An acupuncture point is a highly conductive point in the body. So I went back to school and I learned Chinese medicine. Dr. Lucy Lee at the Institute of Oriental Medicine on Queen Emma Street in Honolulu. I spent 2 years learning points, channels, and meridians, and I thought if I got really good with needles, I'd be really powerful with the device. And so it's like acupuncture on steroids. As I was learning needling, and if I didn't see a reaction to my needles, the person had no chi.
Yeah. Right, they're deficient.
Had no vital force.
I'm trained in animal acupuncture, so I'm a believer in Eastern medicine as well.
The whole thing was, so I told Dr. Lee, I said, I have a machine. No machine, round eye. We use needle, herb. Needle, herb. I go, Lucy, too slow. My machine's got the chi. I can move the signal every time.
Because if you're deficient, you don't even have the chi to
You don't have chi. And a lot of this planet is suffering with low chi, low energy. You're being bombarded by a lot of, every time they change the frequency of the planet, a pandemic follows. Get the book Invisible Rainbow. They compared COVID to Spanish flu. 1918. What was the frequency change in 1918?
Couldn't tell you.
Radio waves. Okay? So any virus, bacteria, gets into the ionosphere, it goes everywhere. Wherever they laid telegraph wires in the 1800s, people would get sick. They called it neurasthenia. They didn't call it the flu, but it was dizziness, headachy, nausea, achy joints. Sounds like the flu. But they called it neurasthenia back then. So that was telegraph wires. Then we changed the frequency with radio-free Europe, with World War I. So if you think of every cell in your body as a little tiny battery, a damaged cell doesn't have the same resonating frequency as a normal healthy cell. And that's what the Equiscope detects. It detects.
Is this similar to electrons and protons? Having charges?
Exactly.
Okay.
Charges. You're electrical. You're one big capacitor with 50 trillion little capacitors inside of you. And you have the non-conducting medium, which is the lipid, and on one side positive, on the other side negative.
Right. That's how things can pass through it.
Okay.
And their charge.
So in an injury, blood flow as well as electric travel the path of least resistance, going around the damaged tissue instead of through it. So you heal very slowly from the outside in, leaving behind scar tissue, which can remain resistant for the rest of your life. So what the Equiscope is capable of doing is finding that area of impedance, blockage, and resistance that's not allowing the cell to get what is known as membrane potential.
Yeah, I remember that in biology.
Okay. And so without that membrane potential, that lipid is not getting
Nothing
energy.
will go through it.
Right. So the lipid starts to degrade. And if it starts to bend just slightly, the positive leaks into the negative. And you get premature apoptosis.
Cell death.
Correct. So what we're able to do is find those cells that aren't resonating properly and infuse charge and clear that blockage and resistance today, not 6 weeks from today. And I don't like to use the word microwave because they're dangerous if you stand in front of them. But people understand that it's going to cook from the inside as well as the outside.
Yeah.
So if I can start healing you from the inside as well as the outside, I'm going to expedite your body's process of healing 2 to 3 times faster than normal.
Right.
So that's what the Equiscope is doing. It's putting chi into your body where you don't have it. And in 1991, 2 German scientists proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that cells are controlled electrically, not biochemically. And it's not sodium, chloride, potassium pump that's the active mechanism of...
All have charges.
So what they found using a patch clamp technique was voltage-sensitive ion channels. They got the Nobel Prize, 1991. Now that's 5 years after I started using the Equiscope and the Myopulse. Substantiation. And what changed was at a trillionth of an amp is what membrane potential needed in order to open those gates. And as Dr. Sinatra would say, they're moving ATP in a preferential direction. Open the gates that allow waste out and nutrient in. And they're controlled electrically. And when they got the right membrane potential, those gates open.
Yeah.
And enhance ATP.
Which is the energy.
And so they had to rewrite the physiology textbooks after 1991 and say, this is the active transport mechanism of nutrient in and waste product out. And it's controlled at a trillionth of an amp. And that's the amplitude that comes out of the Equiscope.
Wow.
So we're able to infuse that charge, establish electrical homeostasis, and bring that cell from a degenerative state to a regenerative state in a matter of milliseconds.
Amazing.
So that's what we're doing. We're changing. It's an instantaneous rate of exchange. Now, this is not like a TENS device or a PMF or, pulse bank. They're all one directional. All are better than getting cut into or dry, and your body will respond. But there's nothing in the world that the kind of technology and mathematics that went into that device, it's all about mathematical signatures. The entire universe is mathematics.
Yeah.
Your body is mathematics.
Right.
So when I excite your tissue, it's not about just a TENS device, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation is a block.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Okay.
It's helpful.
Right. Because, what we're thinking, time heals all wounds.
Right.
So if I can get them off the opiates, and if I can get them off,
and keep you moving, so it takes away that pain barrier.
And we're not the whole deal. My device can't control what you put in your mouth. My device can't fuel you correctly.
Yeah.
You got to run the blood. So it's the yin and the yang of it all, It's an integrative approach. There's not all of Western medicine is bad. The best diagnostics and the best kind of...
Right. I like integrative. Use the Eastern and the Western.
Exactly. Integrate. Not one's, because, hey, believe me, I knew flying across that Pacific Ocean when that morphine wore off, I wasn't a happy camper.
Right. And I do emergency medicine now. That's Western medicine. Sure.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have to cut. But there's also so much we can learn from Eastern medicine.
We've got the best ICUs in the world. But when you get moved downstairs, you better have a caregiver.
That's what I've found healing from my injuries and really seeking out, finding people like you who are going to help you heal for the long-term game.
I call it cellular physiology. If I can treat your spirit, which is energy, where did you come from and where are you going?
Well, and it's true even in athletic performance. Yeah. If we have a confident, joyful, happy spirit, like getting into that flow state, we perform better. I see it in my horses. When they're anxious and washed out, they don't run well. When they come out there and they're on their toes and they're confident, they perform well. Athletes are the same. And healing starts with the mind.
Exactly. And that's so what I'm talking about is a two-directional, which is known as mutual excitation. Okay, so when I excite your tissue with my device, it's capturing the behavior of your autonomic nervous system, both sympathetic and parasympathetic. And your brain is supposed to respond to that excitation 1/10 of a billionth of a millisecond.
Yeah.
And if it responds in 1/8 of a tenth of a billionth of a millisecond, my device goes, 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 5. There's blockage.
There's something.
Something that's not right. So then it goes searching off to, there's the blockage. There's the impedance. We need to change that impedance, move that impedance and allow energy to flow through. And now the brain, as I excite you again, in milliseconds. So the device is treating you in real time. Your body is the miracle here.
Yeah.
Your body is the miracle. We've treated it. And that's why Chinese
medicine. Which is what you want. You want to get your body to heal itself.
Chinese medicine has been around for 10,000 plus years. Are they doing anything different? Our medicine has been around for a couple of hundred. And it's just like the old snake oil salesman of people look, you're like a snake oil salesman. I said, you know what? Snake oil is actually very good for you. It's high in omegas. It's very good. It's the guys that were watering down the snake oil and selling it in their little bottles with their little trucks and their little things.
Yeah.
And they'd give a couple of people the real snake oil and get a reputation, and then they give them bad stuff.
Right.
So that's where snake oil got kind of its but it's
the supplement industry. Some can be good, but it's not regulated. So you need to find the right sources.
Yeah.
The people you trust.
The people that you trust. And that's a hard game to find these days.
It is.
Is truly people that you trust. That's why I'm doing this podcast with you.
You trust me?
I trust you. You're an athlete. You're an extreme athlete. And you're doing what very few women would ever do. So you're a champion for the women. It's just, I have such high regard for you because, many people, she's a jockey and a veterinarian. Not only is she, and she's a pole vaulter, and she's this, and she's that. She's a high-level athlete that's climbing on the back of a horse. That's a high-level athlete, and that yin and that yang of the human and the touch, and to watch this girl ride, this young woman ride. I became a huge fan of you thanks to Ted Lilly, who was my $1 million baby, who I brought back. But Ted said, John, there's just something about this girl that I think you ought to give her a shot with this Equiscope, that I'm going to loan her mine. And that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
Through Ted. And
Ted, baseball player.
Yeah. Who made about $80 million throwing a baseball.
Yeah. Left-handed.
And Teddy's the sweetheart of a guy. He's actually part Hawaiian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's part Hawaiian.
Okay.
And so Teddy, he had Tommy John surgery, and they told him 6 months before you throw a baseball.
Now, what kind of surgery is this?
Tommy John is a shoulder surgery that's very well. Pitchers get it from overuse of the shoulder, and so Ted couldn't throw, and he didn't have the 6 months because somebody would take his position with the Chicago Cubs at that time.
Right.
And I was out treating a horse out in San Ynez, and I had met Ted when he was in college, and his pitching coach became my patient, and his buddy, one of his best friends, also became my patient, but Teddy wasn't hurt at that time, and he just watched me. So here it's now probably 10 years later, and I get this phone call, and I'm underneath the horse, and he said, I don't know if you remember me or not, but my name's Ted Lilly, and I'm a pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, and I have an injury that I had the surgery, but you fixed my pitching coach and you fixed my buddy who could throw at 102. Would you help me? And he said, are you still like $250 a treatment? I think you were charging $250 when you... I said, Teddy, that was 10 years ago. My prices have gone up. He said, well, that's okay. He said, could you come and stay with me and like treat me every day, you know, and maybe twice a day. And so I didn't remember him. And so he said, listen, I'll get you a bed and breakfast up here. You can stay with me up in my place here, and I'll get you a bed. And I said, well, I don't really like having breakfast with people I don't know. You know, I'll get you the whole place. Okay.
He's a believer already.
And I said, you know, and I said, well, it's like $2,500 a day. He said, no problem. So then I called my wife and I said, look up Ted Lilly and see if he can afford me. Mm-hmm. People will spend more on their animals than they will ever on themselves many times, as you know, as a veterinarian.
Yes.
Right? So she calls me back and she goes, the guy's made about 30 or 40 million throwing a baseball. I said, oh, he can afford me. Mm-hmm. So off I went. I worked on Teddy, and about 3 weeks later, he's throwing into the side of he bought a nice ranch up in San Luis Obispo, and he's throwing into the side of a mountain. And he goes, play catch with me. So I put on the catcher's glove, and he throws a couple of balls at me, and I go, I ain't playing catch with you. I might be a stuntman, but I'm not stupid. Yeah. And I said, Jesus, my hand. He goes, I'm calling my strength and conditioning coach. So the guy flies out, and he said, Teddy, throw it here. Teddy throws it there. Throw it here. Throw it here. What'd you do? This guy. Could he do the whole team? He goes, Teddy, he says to me, hey, John, you want to go to spring training with me? So off I went to treat the Chicago Cubs with Ted Lilly.
Wow.
And that was one of my but that's how I met you.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that. It's been a while that we've known each other.
And then Teddy went on to sign with the Dodgers for 3 years for $33 more million. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
Yeah. Good thing you saved his career.
So he's still a dear, dear buddy of mine, a dear friend, and a hell of a guy.
Right. You gave him his life and career back.
And he's
a lot to people.
And he bought the machines, and he bought because his wife was a veterinarian.
Yeah, Tasha. And
she wanted to, you know, she said, well, I'm interested. He said,
and an acupuncturist.
Correct.
She was my mentor.
So she was the one that, she said, well, I'll buy the machines. I said, okay, good. I'd love to have you on the team.
Yeah. And
so he became a great support for me and did testimonials and all kinds of things about what he personally went through. You know, and our entire business has been built on word of mouth. Mm-hmm. We've never advertised. We've never solicited. Mm-hmm. When I sit in front of a group of 25 to 40 people in our sold-out classes these days, I said, not one of you was up late night TV watching somebody, hey, pain free, we'll give you. Not one of you got something from me in the mail. Not one of you. Every one of you had to experience what we do. Yeah. And that's why you spent
the healing for themselves.
Big money to be sitting in those seats. And at this time, you know, the Equiscope is no toy. At this point, it's selling at $50K, and it probably will go to $100 very soon because of what it's done. Now we have over 600 out in every walk of medicine, from the neurologist to the veterinarian. So we're taking cowgirls and cowboys, in the barrel racing community, and that never made more than they're racing for pennies, you know, barrel racing. They never made more than $10 an hour. Yeah. And now they're getting $150 a treatment using an Equiscope. You know, and we don't price set, but you know, we basically, people don't appreciate it if they don't pay. You got to put value on what you're doing.
You do.
And what we're doing is priceless.
It is. Now, I know you've worked on numerous professional human athletes. You've also worked on horses and birds of prey. First, I want to start with, where did your love of horses start?
I started riding when I was about 4 years old. And my father put me in an English saddle. And I was an Indian. And I was not a prissy.
You didn't post?
I posted. I hated every minute of it. But my father, my mother, when I was 1 year old, was given the diagnosis of metastatic cancer in your breast. She was given a year to live when I was 1. So my mother instilled a faith in me that's unpenetratable. They gave her a year, she lived 10. And she lived long enough to instill a faith in me that no one can touch. Even the minister that was at her bedside, she never complained. She never double radical mastectomies.
Wow.
She was the guinea pig rat for cobalt. This is in the 50s. So cancer in like 1952, 53. They radiated her. They, did everything to her, double radical mastectomies. And at the age of 8, I knew how to check for vitals because I came home and my mom would be on the floor in the kitchen.
Wow.
From that point on, and I checked. She's alive. She said, Mom. Oh, hi, Johnny. You're on the kitchen floor. Oh, help me back into my bed. And so she was barely 5 foot tall, probably weighed 75 pounds, maybe 80 pounds, her body riddled with cancer. And I basically partially carried her and got her back into her hospital bed that she had put into my bedroom. And from that point on, we had 24/7 nurses. And she put her hospital bed into my bedroom because my father had built the back end of our house and built me the perfect little boy room, and how this story goes off is because how did I get involved with horses? And I loved horses. And so my father, here's a little boy with his mother dying.
Yeah.
Give him a horse. Every Christmas it was like, isn't there a pony in the backyard?
Uh-huh.
Well, I can't get you a pony where we live here in Burbank, but Pickwick Stables is right up the, so I can put you on a horse there. And that's where I started riding, And
Did you find much therapy from building a connection with a horse as your mom was going through this?
My entire life, I was supported.
Yeah.
And then when I got my own horse and I'd go up into the Griffith Park Mountains and and believe me, no saddles. I rode bareback.
That was the best.
No pad.
So connected with that
nothing.
horse.
And so that was my therapy. That was as my mother was dying. And with her hospital bed in my room, so that every time I was conscious or, she'd hear me in the middle of the night dreaming. And she'd say, she could barely talk because of the radiation had affected her vocal cord. She had a little bell she could ring. But she'd hear me dreaming and she said, Johnny, what were you dreaming about? And I said, I was dreaming I could fly. She said, well, that's lovely. Why were you yelling? I said, I was yelling because every time I tried to show my friends that I could fly, I couldn't get off the ground and they all laughed at me and they all ran away, and as soon as they were gone, I could fly again. And she said, honey, you're trying to show off. You know you can fly. Who cares if they know you can fly? So as a little boy, I dreamt I could fly. And as a young man, I was one of the first to strap on wings and fly like the birds.
Wow. You made your dream come true.
Dreams. If you can dream it, you can do it.
Amen.
So I got involved with my first horses I owned my first horse at like 14. And, in the meantime, we had studio stables. We had horses that, I lived with the horses, and I muck stalls, I could ride free.
Yeah.
So I mucked stalls and I rode free and I had, and then finally,
You earned it.
I earned my horse because my father was another one that was, here, the love of his life, watching my mother pass, and
Yeah.
the minister even said, this little woman with an impish twinkle in her eye put a faith such as mine to shame. She never complained about her malady. She never complained about her pain. All she thought about was her loving husband and her children. I have a sister that's 3 years older than me. And that's where she put all of her, is never about herself. And so, my mother and my dad, who had the highest security clearance in the world at that time, his area was Area 51.
Oh.
My father did the mock-ups and the whole thing for the U-2, which was a spy plane.
Mm-hmm.
Got shot down over Russia, with Gary Powers in it. And then, so he built the U-2. He built the SR-71, which if you see Top Gun, right next to the throttle,
Okay.
you'll see a little green skunk. My father's was called Skunk Works with Lockheed.
Wow.
And he built the Stealth. So my dad, my dad worked at Area 51. I used to say, I go, Dad, is there space people out there? He goes, son, I'm working on aircraft. It doesn't look like aircraft, but it's, you put a bird out there on the wing of the Stealth, the radar will pick up the bird and not the wing. So
Interesting.
amazing parents.
What a legacy you're carrying on.
Amazing parents that, my father, although his nickname for me at one time was my son, the bum, because I was a surf bum and I was a ski bum. Mm-hmm. And I loved to surf and ski. And in that time with Vietnam and everything else going on, I watched my Eagle Scout buddies go to Vietnam, and I was getting in the mail a peace symbol with a Viet Cong ear attached to it, because the highest level of showing who you are in Vietnam was they cut off their ears to show that you actually made the kill.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's my era of Vietnam. And I told my dad, these guys aren't coming back like they were, Dad. Mm-hmm. I went to war, you go to war. I go, this ain't the same kind of war.
No.
So if you ask me for the time, I'll build you a clock. So you got to kind of wiggle and waggle with me.
This is fascinating.
Because it's been a hell of a ride.
And now to current stage of life. Between horses and Equiscope, they are taking you around the world. Can you talk about the areas you're doing business now and what a fascinating life you're living?
Well, so in 2018, one of the guys I trained, who is a farrier from Ireland, Declan Cronin, and he was at Michael DeCock's racing stables. And he had heard about the Equiscope through Rio King, another horse chiropractor that's like Larry's son. And Rio's another excellent horse chiropractor. I mean, these guys take the hind leg to set the back. They take the hind leg up to their chest and have the hot horse trot out on 3 legs. And that's what sets the back. So then they lift up, and I'm like, these guys are amazing in what they're doing. And so anyways, that's how they set the back. And Rio had talked highly. His fiance at the time, top trick rider, and their mother bought an Equiscope. So Rio's now mother-in-law, they bought an Equiscope from us back in the early days. So he talked to Declan about, you should learn about this Equiscope. And so he took his time, and he ended up finally purchasing an Equiscope and flying from Dubai and coming into, because he was at Michael DeCock's racing stables in Dubai. So he took an Equiscope back with him to Dubai. And so about 3 weeks after he's back in Dubai, the princess had a horse that had colicked badly, a 30-year-old horse. that she had since she was 8 years old. And it had been down in the stall for 2 days. And so they were getting ready to euthanize the horse, because a horse that's 30, you can't do the
colic surgery.
Yeah, the visqueen, the stall, and we'll do it right here. We'll cut his belly open and pull the guts out. It's like, I went through about 4 or 5 of those surgeries with veterinarians in my day, and it's like, how are we going to get all this stuff back inside?
It is shocking to watch, yeah.
Oh, how did they get it all back inside? We got it all out. See, here was the kink.
In the right order.
Here was the kink. Here was so we straightened that all out. So a horse at 30, you're not going to make it. So anyways, as they're about ready to euthanize the horse, one of the people that were in the stall with her said, Shikamita, there's a guy over at Michael DeCock's racing stables that has this Equiscope that it might help your horse. Bring him over. So Declan calls me and he says, the princess just called me and the palace gates have swung open and we're invited in.
Pressure's on.
The pressure's on. So he goes, I took the machines and I went over there. And the horse is down. And there's the cousins and everybody in their white robes, and the horse's head is on the princess's lap. And so he said, John, I just put a plate on the pole of the horse's head and one on his byway on a master acupuncture point on the hind end. And then I was just going to get him calm, and used to and then I was going to do all the large intestine points. So he said, I put those 2 in place and taped them in place, and I hit the button and that horse's ears went straight up. And he went, oh shit, don't die. They're going to say this. He brought this machine over and he killed the horse.
Yeah.
And
Too much energy.
Oops. And so he's going, and now the horse starts to shake and he's going, oh shit, don't die. And so it starts to get his front feet underneath him. And I'm getting this whole, this is secondhand. So I wasn't there. But anyway, so he says, the horse starts to shake and he starts to try and get up and he's going, oh shit, don't die. This horse is going to drop dead. That machine killed the horse. Starts to stand and the princess is looking there like, oh my God. And then the horse gets up. Been down for 2 days. So it hadn't pooped in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So it had a blowout.
That's what you want if they're colicking. You need those guts to start moving.
Blowout. So all those guys in those white robes weren't so white anymore. Wrong end of the horse. The princess was at the right end of the horse. But the guys at the back end of the horse got sprayed. I mean, we're talking about people that understand horses that have been down and get up. Boom, they blow. Mm-hmm. So anyways, the horse gets up, nibbles at its hay bale, takes a drink of water, opened the paddock door, he trots out like nothing happened. Mm-hmm. So the princess goes, I want to meet the man with this machine. Can he be at LAX tomorrow morning? We'll fly him in. Tell him to bring 6 of those machines. I got 104 head. So he calls me. Can you be at LAX tomorrow morning and bring 6 machines? I said, Declan, I can't move that fast, and I don't want to fly a small jet to the Middle East. He goes, John, it's a 747. You'll have an apartment. It's the royal jet. They fly horses and people, and believe me. And I said, I just can't move that fast. And she's a female, and I could only touch her from the neck up or from the ankles down. Let me get one of my top female equine people that we've trained, a little gal from North Dakota, Jamie Longbrake, and let me bring her with me, and we'll bring the 6 machines and come to Dubai. And so then her father ended up purchasing the ruler of Dubai, Godolphin. In fact, they just bought another one at Breeders' Cup, and their horse did win. They said, nice. Can you bring one to Del Mar? So this is just not even a month back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we happen to have another one, So we delivered it to Del Mar, and their horse performed well. They won. And you hear very little, and even in a podcast, the Middle East are not wild about the internet. They're not wild about you never hear Sheikh Mohammed's name really, and he spends about $6 million a day in his racehorse organization.
Wow.
$1 million a day out at Godolphin, out in Dubai.
And you are also going to Argentina regularly.
Argentina, and so Dr. Alico Gancedo, who was introduced me by the first female 747 captain.
Wow.
Who I played polo for Continental Airlines. She was the first female to fly around the world with a 747 crew of all women. And so Lenny Sorensen. And Lenny had me playing, and she said, I left some mallets in Argentina. We were going to go down for the Argentine Open, the biggest polo match yearly. The best polo players in the world are really the Argentines.
And you're treating the polo players and their horses, correct?
Correct. Both horse and rider. And so she said, I left 2 mallets, or not 2. She said, I left mallets. You could pick up those mallets and you can have them. I figured she got like 5 or 6 mallets at least. And they go for, back in the day, they were 100. Now they're up to about for custom mallets, they're really up to about 140 a mallet if you get in a custom mallet. And so I waited around we went back and forth with Alico. I knew he was a racehorse trainer, a polo horse trainer, a polo player, and a veterinarian. So I went,
we should meet.
Yeah. So he's a rider and he's a veterinarian. And so Lenny, but we went back and forth. And finally I caught up to him in Pilar I was ordering all brand new saddles. And he says, I have had Lenny's mallets since 2008. Mm-hmm. He had them for like 13 years, or whatever, hanging in his barn, not letting anybody use these mallets that were Lenny's mallets. And Lenny just had something in, she said, you two have got to meet, So anyways, I figured I'm going to have a bundle of mallets. He has 2. Mm-hmm. I said, this is it? Beat up 2 old mallets that I've chased you for a week to try and get these mallets? And anyways, him and I, another long story short, he ended up getting the device. He said, I think I can really help you down here in Argentina with the high goal players. And so we just took Antonio Hege, his uncle, Nachi Hege, 10 goals. The highest in polo is 10 goals.
Okay.
Cambiaso, who they did a special on in 60 Minutes, is 10 goal. His son, Pierto, 10 goals. Their team is a 40-goal team. Nachi Hage's nephew and 2 nephews that are on the team, and the Piera's boys are the other 2. They're only a 36-goal team playing against, Antonio came off and tore his meniscus. And there's certain things, I can't fix a broken bone. There's, there's things that need to be surgically addressed.
Right. That's why it's integrative.
Right. So we pre-opt him. We got the tissue healthier before they cut. Mm-hmm. And then we post-opt him. And 19 days later, he got most valuable player in the Tortugas against Cambiaso and his son, Perotto. 40-goal team against a 36-goal team. Wow. They got beat by 1 goal. And, it was back and forth, and Antonio got most valuable player.
Okay.
And then we took another kid just recently, another high goal player, and I think I sent you the videos of the rollovers on him.
Yes.
Polo is not for sissies.
No.
Polo, you gotta, it's it's another that the horses love to play. Mm-hmm. And this
I hear a good polo pony will chase the ball.
Oh, they chase the ball, and you want to make sure if you're buying a polo horse that you play them in a game. Mm-hmm. You can go out and stick and ball, and they'll be just fine. But game day, that horse is a different breed.
Yeah.
They are just
like a racehorse.
Exactly.
They know when it's time to race.
Most of them are racehorses that came off the track.
Yeah.
We try and get them. We try and get them with not too many runs at the track because all the tracks go to the left, which puts them on the left lead, and we want to hit the ball on the right lead.
Okay.
So you got to get them. They got to be able to switch leads.
Although we do keep them in the right lead on the straightaway.
Yeah.
We're on the left, just turning left, right. But we only go to the left.
Right. And so some other areas of the world, they go to the right.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Hong Kong, Europe, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, most polo ponies back in the day were all thoroughbreds, you know, and then it got into the polo bred, and Cambiaso then started cloning his horses. It was a 60 Minutes on him doing the first horse clones, and he's now selling his cloned horses. Just got $750,000 for one. You know, people are paying $500,000 for a polo horse. You know, so it's getting up there, just like what we're going through with the thoroughbreds out at Keeneland,
Right.
and the yearlings in Keeneland. You can see where the price went.
Right.
You know,
It's crazy.
so so we're doing horse and rider, and now
What about these mixed martial art athletes?
MMA. So the bodyguard for the princess, and people will pronounce, because they're from Brazil, BJJ is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
So they changed Helio, the grandfather of all the Gracie family. He could still choke you out at 99, right? But he studied under the master of Japan in jiu-jitsu, of which they didn't really want to share with the Western world some of the martial arts. Same thing with some of the karate, the thing with Bruce Lee, and the sharing of this knowledge of combat,
Yeah.
physical combat. And so the princess's bodyguard, when I delivered the machines to her, you know, he was with me every day. His name, it's Rafael Halbert, but in Portuguese you pronounce the R with an H, so it's Rafael.
Okay.
So if you hear Renzo Gracie, everybody calls Renzo Gracie, who's a legend in MMA, you know, Renzo, its real name pronounced correctly in Portuguese is Renzo.
Okay.
So anyways, so the princess's bodyguard and I became immediate best friends, you know, I mean, because the princess said, I hear you play polo. I said, I haven't played polo in 25 years. She said, oh, it's like riding a bike. She says, I have 100, please, you know, we could do a special polo match for you down here in Dubai. I've got a wonderful horse I would love for you to ride. I said, I don't have any boots. She says, what size are you? I said, well, I'm a 9. Hold on. So about 15 minutes, the Mercedes pulls back up. Here's his boots. Here's your boots. I don't have a helmet. What size is your?
No way.
I'm trying to I've been on a horse. I don't want to embarrass myself. I haven't been on a horse in like 25 years, 20
Now
years.
you've bought me all this new gear.
And now she's got,
You're invested in me already.
I go, oh God. So I climb on and they load me on, and I'm, you know, and so I start to stick and ball around the field, you know, and so it was really the princess that got me motivated back into playing polo. And so, and Rafael also was, you know, a polo player. And at that time, he had the use of a jet, a helicopter, whatever, as being the bodyguard. And I won't really get into the whole thing about the culture down there between, but Shikamita is a hell of a polo player. She plays all over the world. She plays in the high goal tournaments, you know, 18 to 20 goal. And so they had an incident where all the bodyguards got fired. And Rafael went from having everything to having nothing. Mm. And I said, I'll teach you to use the Equiscope. So again, out to Declan's barn at Michael Dukak's, they gave one stall for him to treat with the Equiscope, and the other stall to do jiu-jitsu, because he was a 6th-degree jiu-jitsu.
I want to train there.
Under Renzo Gracie.
Wow.
And so Renzo is the sensei for the richest man in the world, Sheikh Tanoon.
Okay.
Who he met back 20-something years ago at his dojo in New York City. And this guy comes in shorts and sandals and says, you, Renzo Gracie, I want to train with you. You're the best. And he said, what do you charge to roll? And jiu-jitsu we call, training rolling, because it's all rolling and maneuvers. And so he said, fine, I'm $250 an hour. And, he says, I have a plane to catch at 5, but I want to roll with you for a couple of hours. So they're rolling, and he's showing them. And so Renzo looks at the clock and he says, you're going to miss your flight. He goes, no, I won't. It's a Boeing. Renzo goes, I don't care what kind of a plane it is. You're going to miss your flight. This is New York City. You got traffic. He goes, I own it. Oh.
That makes a difference.
That makes a big difference. So that's Sheikh Tanoon. And again, these guys don't like their names mentioned really, and he flies under the radar. Renzo, so we treated Renzo out at the stables. Once again, it's back to the old
Get in the stall.
treating people in a horse stall.
Yeah.
And they showed up. And also Rafael had also, he was the manager and moving into the position of becoming an owner of the Nogueira gym in Dubai with Antonio, two twin brothers, the Nogueiras, who were legends in MMA, who both became my patients, or both became, actually, they became Rafael's patients after, and so then we started treating Rafael. When I came into town, I said, listen, I've got all these top MMA guys down here, but they would love to meet you. And so I came down and he said, I want to compete again. And he said, I'm 44 years old and I want to fight in the heavyweight division. And so we worked on he had a torn pectoral. And so we worked on it and we got him good. So good that he wanted to compete in the World Championships in Dubai. And so now he had gone from bodyguard to treating out of a horse stall to now, if I could come back and compete, but there was only the 35 to 40, so he'd have to fight guys 10 years younger in the heavyweight division because they didn't have a 40 to 45 division. So he had to fight guys 10 years younger. And in jiu-jitsu, you fight one guy. If you win, then you got to fight another guy. If you win, then you can fight in the final, as they break it down, and in the old day of MMA.
Endurance.
MMA, it's like Hoist Gracie and the Gracies, they'd fight 4, 5, 6 guys back in the old Pride time of the beginning of MMA when it was outlawed and illegal around the world. They could, MMA has gone from being back alley fighting to the most watched sport other than that 2 minutes at Kentucky.
That's right.
The most watched sport, far surpassing boxing and everything else, is the whole MMA. So now we go to the World Championships, and Rafael is saying, I am body electric. I'm going. So he makes the weigh-in, 194, he makes the weigh-in, he makes everything. I'm going, I hope we win. And he's like, I have this machine, the Equiscope, and I am body electric. And I was like, oh, golly. So he wins his first match. He wins his second match. Now he's in the finals for the championships, heavyweight, and he wins. And we're on the news, him and I together. It's body electric, And that brought the attention to Sheikh Rashid, who's so Sheikh Rashid's dad was Sheikh Mohammed's older brother. And he didn't want to be the ruler of Dubai. He wanted to be the minister of finance. And so he was the minister of finance, and he passed away a couple of years back. I wish we would have had a chance to treat him, but we didn't. And he passed. So anyways, then Rafael became the sensei for number 3 in the country, Sheikh Rashid. So it's Sheikh Mohammed is the ruler, his son is the crown prince, and Sheikh Rashid is number 3, and then Sheikh Maktoum, his younger brother, is number 4. And so now Rafael is the sensei for royal family, not a bodyguard, sensei. Sheikh Tanoon sleeps with an Equiscope next to his bedside. Mm-hmm. And so we have one at the Palace there in Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, it's a human machine. It's a person machine. But in Dubai, they consider it, it's that horse machine. That's a horse machine. So anyway, so now I've got the sensei for number 3 who has a beautiful jiu-jitsu gym. And, because the guys at Nogueira, the sheikh that was in charge, when Rafael lost his position as the bodyguard, all of a sudden they didn't feel that they had to give him the percentage of the gym as he was promised. He's no longer part of the royal family. So I watched him and I told him, you can't be treated this way. I said, that's when I said, I'll help you. We'll get an Equiscope in your hands and let's do your own gym. Mm-hmm. And so Renzo said, hey, you can put my name on it. We'll call it Renzo Gracie Dubai. And so we opened Renzo Gracie Dubai, of which brought in, all kinds of big names of MMA because Renzo's name's on it.
Right.
Legend. So George St. Pierre shows up. Nice. GSP. Who and I always really liked him because he was a gentleman.
Oh, good.
And he didn't talk shit about anybody else. He was, he stood behind, and really a gentleman. And I respected him.
Character.
And a champion, and he got injured. And I met him about a year back with Javier Menendez, who was the coach for Khabib, who went undefeated, and with MMA. And so Javier's now, because we train out at the Royal Palace gym. They built a jiu-jitsu gym, Sheikh Rashid, specifically to train with Rafael. And so now all these guys are showing up. I'm meeting Javier Mendes, who's a striking coach. He's more Muay Thai. Okay. And so he's a striking coach for Khabib and for all the top. So we were, I'm meeting all these top guys. And
awesome.
So I had told George, he said, I've hurt my shoulder. And I said, I've got a machine. I said, well, they're going to do this surgery on me. And I said, well, you could probably avoid the surgery unless, I'm telling you, look at my bicep. And I showed him my torn up. Mm-hmm. And he's approached by so many people all over the place, that they've got this or they've got that. So many people are out there.
There's so many theories out there. And yeah.
There's so much BS out there that's
it's hard to know how to sort it.
So he kind of disregarded the things that I was saying. So then almost a year later, I'm out having dinner with him again. And so he said, I had the surgery and they're saying it's going to be at least 6 months before I'm able to even, so I'm not going to be able to train here at Gracie, Renzo Gracie Dubai with Rafael. And I said, oh, yes, you will. And Rafael goes, no, he fixed me. Really, now all of a sudden he's got Renzo and he's got everybody in his ear going, John, shit's real. Mm-hmm. Well, could I try it? No, I said, you want to try it, huh? I told you a year ago to try it. I know, but I hear somebody else. I said, okay, fine. Show up at the gym. If you show up at the gym, because they said, you got to call this guy. I've never called anybody in my life. If they want what I have, they'll call me. I've never picked up the phone and said, hi, I'm John Thorp. John who? John? No. But if they call me when I return the call, John, yeah, different mentality of which I'm a stuntman. Mm-hmm. We all got egos. But some of the stuntmen have the biggest egos in the world. I used to have, in my big clinic that I opened up in Beverly Hills, or at Westwood Medical Plaza, I had a big sign at the door, check your ego at the door. Mm-hmm. This is a patient-focused care clinic, and the stuntman checks his twice in the back where we had all of our big plush offices when I opened up this big place. And so George comes and he's down and they're holding a little presentation, for all the jiu-jitsu people showed up, all the MMA people showed up to meet George St. Pierre. George shows up at the gym because now he's going to try the Equiscope. Mm-hmm. So he's telling about, and you can go on YouTube and go George St. Pierre Equiscope, and it's on YouTube because George had no problem with after we touched him. And so George is saying, well, it's going to be 6 months. And I'm upstairs in the kind of private area of the jiu-jitsu gym where we see a few clients up there. And so George is saying, well, it's going to be 6 months. And I'm upstairs in the kind of private area of the jiu-jitsu gym where we see a few clients up there. And George goes, oh, it's going to be 6 months. And I yell down, cut it in half. I'll fix you in 3, if not sooner. And Rafael goes, oh, John's upstairs. George looks up and he goes, oh, it's the wizard. It's the wizard.
I need another maybe 3 to 4 months before I can go back on the mat.
Cut that time in
I
half.
can't wait.
John is waiting for you
that
there. The wizard, the magic.
He comes up, and so I ended up treating him for a bit. And then Rafael, I said, you get in here and treat him. Black belt, treating each other.
Awesome.
So you treat George. So George then gets up and he goes, but I can't raise my arm any higher than... Oh my God. I haven't been able to do that. I haven't been able to do this. Oh my God. This is magic. This is magic. And then he gave something about magic is only what...
This thing is borderline magic.
Yeah. And he said, this is magic. And so, we moved him along quite quickly where he wanted to immediately, I'll buy the devices, I'll do this. But then he got a hold of one of my guys that, oh, are you kidding me? George St. Pierre, I'll fly wherever he's at. I'll do, Anyways, George became a huge fan and became a huge believer. And with, Antonio Noguera and, all the guys that we've treated, with the device, especially with the Gracie family. Hickson Gracie fought 400 fights undefeated. And he got Parkinson's. A lot of these fighters that have hit, a lot of the head injury stuff, with encephalitis, too many hits to the head. Mm-hmm. So he got Parkinson's. And we treated him, and he went from shaky to barely getting a cup to it's like, oh my God. So we've let Hickson, through Renzo, use a machine, and he's improved dramatically. But so that whole Gracie family now, and the word has gone out amongst the MMA guys that we have this miracle machine. And when you have somebody like GSP saying it's magic.
Right.
So that's kind of the MMA world where we're at currently right now with whoever steps up to the plate. Once again, I'm not calling all the, oh yeah, I could do this or I could get, no.
Yeah, word of mouth.
Yeah, they want to find me, they'll find me. If they want to find, now I've got 600 people out worldwide using the device. Mm-hmm. So it's no longer a few here and a few there.
Right.
It's 600.
Yeah, you have a team.
Yeah, we have a huge team. And every day, my beautiful wife who runs pretty much runs the office and runs everything and allows me to be the character that I am, run around the world and do the things I enjoy. Another miracle today, another miracle today, another miracle today. So when you have 600 people out there, and we just did a study on autism, autism with the whole heavy metal thing. I mean, due to, one podcast, because I talked about vaccines, but these kids are getting vaccines, and it's not that we're anti-vax. It's just that the thimerosal and the preservatives that are in the vaccines are heavy metals. Mm-hmm. When you have 1 out of 30 kids coming up on the spectrum, something's off. Mm-hmm. So we did a study on autism, and we showed that we were very, very effective on autism. And when you hear the stories from a mother with a child that never spoke, that says, hey, Mom, how are you doing?
Right. Lisa shares some of those stories with me. Lisa, your wife, and she is brilliant and passionate, and it's been great to see the way that you guys team up with Equiscope and, build this team of like-minded people around you. And she is such an educator. And I think that's why we've really teamed up through the podcast and wanting to educate and give back. And if you find something that, gives life to people, taking away chronic pain, taking away, illnesses, and giving people hope. That's just such a gift and something to share with the world.
It's, as I say, there's hope with a scope. Equiscope, that is. But it's driven me really forward in the 40. It only, as I say, takes 40 years to become an overnight success.
Right.
40 years of
perseverance.
Up against the naysayers and the doubters and the, you'll never, even at least at one time said, we're $1 million in debt. Why are you buying more machines? And I said, honey, you haven't seen what I've seen. At Castle Medical Center, it was, the word went out on the set when I went back that I had these machines. And so people started showing up. I took a guy that was one of the heads of security that had been shot 6 times and couldn't get his arm above his belly button. And I said, I saw him struggling. And I said, I think I can help you. Come into my trailer. And 3 weeks later, he had his arm above his head. Mm-hmm. And he told me he had hugged his children for the first time in 3 years since he was shot. And he said,
that's a testimonial.
I hope you don't mind, but I told my neighbor who's had chronic headaches for 11 years, migraine headaches. And her daughter is an extra on the set. And if you would treat her, I would be so, she's a wonderful woman that wakes up in pain every morning. Would you treat her? I said, I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to get in trouble. I have these machines for me. And, I told her to come down and meet you. And she's a nurse, and she's the right-hand person to the president of Loma Linda Castle Medical Center. And so I treated her headaches. She came in and I said, fine, sign this release, not to be considered a medical treatment of any kind. But if you're going to sit with a stunt guy, you're going to pay me $100, No value, no value. And what we do is priceless. So no matter what value, but so she came and I treated her, and she said, I didn't want to jinx it, but about the 6th session that she came to me, she said, after the 3rd session, I haven't had a headache. But I didn't want to say anything because every morning I thought I'd wake up and that headache would be back. And it hasn't come back. And she said, I hope you don't mind, but I told the president of the hospital, who's my boss, who's a marathon runner that was competitive at 50, and at 52 he can't get past 12 miles. Would you help him? I said, no. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to get in trouble. I'm a stunt guy. She said, well, I told him to come down and meet you. I think it would be very beneficial, and he'd probably buy the machines for the hospital. And I'm selling machines, but I'm at that time. So this is like I'm just back on the set of Magnum PI, and I'm a stuntman, leave me alone. Knock, knock, knock on my door the next day. I open the door, there's a man in a tie on. I hear you do miracles, and hands me his card. And I look at it, it says, Dr. John Mungie, President, Castle Medical Center. And I hand him back his card, and I said, I hear you throw people in jail for practicing medicine without a license. He said, no. He said, I just want to run again, and I'll pay you whatever it is. But Mary Beth is my neighbor, and the detective you worked on is my neighbor, and they both said you do miracles. I need a miracle. I have 80 physicians that have injected me and done everything to me, and I still can't get past 12 miles. Would you help me? Okay, sign this release. Not to be considered a medical treatment of any kind. I said, I need to see you at least 3 times a week. I don't just half-ass things. I don't do one treatment here, I've had people pay me, everything. Well, he only wants to do it once. He'll pay you $10,000. I said, I don't do once. I do 3. But he'll pay you $10,000 for, this is the kind of money that we're dealing with down in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I said, I do 3, or I don't do it at all. I don't need your money. I'm not needy. I don't need your money. Mm-hmm. So he asked me after the first treatment, could I come 5 days a week? I said, yeah, if you want to pay me 5, if you want to come 5 times a week, you can come 5 times a week. So after the second week, on about the 11th treatment, just prior to the treatment, he calls me and he says, I ran 17 miles. You broke the 12-mile mark. He said, John, the Honolulu Marathon's coming up. What do you think? He said, will I destroy everything you've done for me if I run it? I said, no. Come in this week. We'll treat you. We'll treat you up till the marathon. So he runs his best time ever in the Honolulu Marathon. And he comes back to me and he said, would you take a position in my hospital? He said, what you do is miraculous, and you need to share this with the world. And I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm a stunt guy. And so he said, you as a stuntman did what 80 physicians couldn't do. And they need to hear what you have to say. So he said, I'll pay you $1,000 a day. We'll buy the machines. I see you taking over our entire Workwell rehabilitation program in Kaneohe. We could have machines in the hospital in their physical therapy center, as well as the other outpatient Kailua center. And he said, so I see you bringing in a whole group of technicians and taking care of our pain management for OT-PT care, and we'll pay you big. I said, I'm not interested. I make more money than most of your doctors. I'm doing a high fall tomorrow for $10,000 one day. I'll pay $1,000 a day, and you only have to do like 5 people. And I said, why would I want to come to a hospital that feeds people crappy food and is full of infection? Mm-hmm. So why would I want to do this? I don't want to do this. So he said, well, number one, we don't feed people crappy food. We're a vegetarian hospital. We're Seventh-day Adventist. And so I see, like I said, and I have the lowest infection rate, and I want you to come in, lecture to my doctors, and take over the pain division of Castle Medical Center. And that was in 1988. Try it for a week. I was with 4 years. Wow. So I oversaw 20 people a day, seeing 8 patients a day, all SOAP note documented. And so I oversaw in that 4 years over 40,000 patient hours of, well, you don't have to do that. You could, it's like, you don't have to get them well that fast, because that one guy went home and pooped pickles. Mm-hmm. They got to, the body's got to process everything you're flushing into it.
Yeah.
So that's where I wrote the clinical protocols that I can teach anybody in 4 days.
Awesome. One last question relating to your work in the Middle East. I've done veterinary work on camels. I've never had the opportunity to work on falcons, but you've treated falcons with the Equiscope. Can you talk about what kind of injuries they sustain and what you were treating?
Well, not only did I treat falcons, I treated an eagle that couldn't grasp. Wow. They found an eagle, in a trash bin that could no longer grasp. And we got that eagle grasping, had him so that he put a plate in his, and treated him. Treated just like, they've all got acupuncture points too. Yeah. And we released that eagle into the wild. And the falcons, it's like they've got blockage and impedance because they race their falcons, low-level falcon, so we've treated, and they've got acupuncture points in the falcons. And so, I've treated falcons and I've treated a camel. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and a camel is a whole different breed of everything.
They're so unique.
And they love their camels,
Oh, yes, they do.
They love their camels.
Big money in camel racing.
So I'm looking forward to doing things with the camels, and, because we're opening up now in Dubai, a center that will treat everything. you know, and we're going after our UAE Health Authority approval so that we're legal, and I'll let my Billionaire Boys Club introduce our technology to the world. And I mean, if you've seen some of the stuff on the crippled dogs with the high losing bowel control and bladder control and dragging their hind end around, and in one treatment stand up, and a month later running down the road, another dog that was going to be euthanized.
Right.
So I treated a fighting chicken. The guy brought me his fighting chicken. I said, I'll treat your chicken, but you promise never to fight this chicken again, because I'm going to come out and make sure. No, I just want to breed him. I've stitched him up with the fishing line, but I know you do miracles. If you'll fix this chicken, I want to breed this chicken. Filipino guy. So I said, okay, I'll treat your chicken. That's a $10,000 chicken. I said,
Wow.
All right, I'll treat your
Didn't
chicken.
know that.
Yeah, and I would check I'd go out and I'd see all of his little boxes for his fighting chicken. I'd go, you better not be fighting that chicken. Look at him, I haven't fought him. You know, he's beautiful. So yeah, I've treated everything from chickens to falcons to, you name it. We're, it doesn't matter. We're
Right.
God's creatures.
That's right.
God made you perfect. And as I end all of whenever I'm at the lowest moment of my life, I was given a poem called If by Rudyard Kipling at the turn of the century. And it goes like this. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can be lied about and not give way to lying, or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or see the things you gave your life for broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn, a pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can trust your heart, your nerve, and sinew long after they're gone, accept the will inside of you that says, hold on. If you can walk with kings and never lose the common touch, yours is the world and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Rudyard Kipling, turn of the century. Or a woman, my daughter, or it goes for both. There's one that he wrote that is for women as well, but he wrote this for his son at the turn of the century. And when I was at the lowest point in my life, somebody gave me that poem. So every chapter in my book is based on one of those. Trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. So
definitely resonates with me.
Yeah.
What is the title of your book?
Well, the book that's out right now that you can find on Amazon, or you can call our office and get it, I'll be glad to autograph it for you, is called From Stuntman to Electro Medicine Man. But the book that I'm writing is really the title that I wanted the first book to have, only now I have a whole lot more stories. So the new book is called 9 Lives, The Journey of a Cellular Physiologist. Where did we come from, and where are we going? And that's, to me, the undying energy is your spirit and your soul. So I've registered cellular physiologist, the treatment of the spirit. If you heal the spirit will heal the body.
All right. Great way to wrap it up. This has been so inspiring, exciting to hear your life's journey and your vision ahead. John, it's been an honor. Thank you for being on the Boundless Podcast.
You're my honor with you, my dear. You are amazing.
Thank you.
And now for a moment from our next episode.
The thing about Lexington and all of actually 19th century racing that was so fascinating to me was this whole concept of bottom. It represented a horse that had courage and stamina. And I wrote it to you. I mean, it describes a person that goes after their dreams, which to me is very important. I mean, we all have dreams. Getting there is not easy. It's very tough. It takes a lot of perseverance, a lot of practice.